Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I very often watch, for instance, Senate or House Judiciary Committee, interviewing certain kind of witness or secretaries of departments of the U.S. government, and I like to see how people answer certain questions and what is the process they use. And sometimes I get frustrated with people who are asked a question and they simply avoid to answer it. And I get frustrated thinking, well, you work for the US government, you're supposed to know and have all this data, and you simply don't have it or you will not provide it. It's your duty to provide the data, since you should be able to know what exactly happens in your department and what your successes are or failures. I've been watching, I watched this exchange, I can't remember if it was last night or it was today. It's between Matt Gaetz, he's a representative, House representative of Florida, with the DHS Secretary Mayorkas. And this DHS Secretary, Chief of the Department, he is in charge with the borders and, national security, things like this. And Mr. Gaetz, Representative Gaetz, asks Mr. Mayorkas, Secretary Mayorkas, I think that's what his, Secretary Mayorkas, he asks clear questions that would provide, like, for instance, I ask you, how many children do you have? That's a clear, exact number, as long as you exactly know, you know what I mean? So 1, 0, 3, 5, 1,000. Or I ask you, how old are you? You should know how old you are. So, and sometimes when I get frustrated with these guys, I will play the video so you can see. I'm thinking, why did I get angry? I get angry because I say, wait a minute, this guy really wants to find out the truth, and this guy is just hiding the truth. And then I apply a rule in order to make sure that I'm entitled to get angry on the situation. And the rule, I named it, it's called the father's rule, which is my father's rule. And I will explain what that rule is after we watch this encounter or exchange between Representative Gaetz and Secretary Mayorkas. So, this is coming from Tampa Free Press. This is Secretary Mayorkas. This is Representative Gaetz. And we have here the video. It is about 5 minutes. And the point here is that I would like you to pay attention at is how the representative asks the secretary to ask specific answers. He asks, okay, how many children you have? You're going to see. And the guy, instead of answering those, he's not answering. And now, instead of saying, oh, it's this, or maybe I don't know, and that's a failure because you should know as the chief or the secretary of this department. So let's start with this video and analyze it.
2 million encounters and releases. 2 million encounters and releases under your watch. So not including the Title 42 expulsions.
Talking about
not
the border.
Violent criminals. Of those 2 million plus that you've encountered and released, how many have you told to go home?
The answer is 3,000, 05, 09, whatever.
Individuals who are released are placed in immigration enforcement proceedings under the law where they can make their claim for relief. If their claim for relief is not satisfied,
this is the procedure.
Removal from the United
Right.
States.
Subject to removal sounds very different than actually removed. So I'm not interested in the process. I'm not interested in what people are subject to. 2 million people encountered and released. Not the expulsions under Title 42, not the criminals. How many of those people have you deported?
So he wants to know a number. The guy started with the process. That's not, I mean, they all both know it's a game. They all know he's asking the exact question. The other guy knows I will not answer it, and they will just spend our time. But it's interesting to see a voter representative versus an appointed. The other guy is just a guy who works for a department that he was appointed. Okay?
So, Congressman, a few points. Number one,
Just how many of the people? I just want to know how many. It's just a number.
If I may.
Congressman,
Yeah.
we are dealing with a completely broken immigration
I get it.
system.
No, Mr. Secretary, I'm not
He didn't answer. He started with something else. I get. I want the number.
burn my 5 minutes. Do you know the answer? Do you know the number of people out of that 2 million that you've removed?
He can
that
say
are-
no.
I do know that we have removed more aggravated felons.
Right, I'm not asking about them. I've caveated that away because here's what I'm sort of getting and what your non-responsiveness is demonstrating. The Mayorkas doctrine is this. If you show up at the border and get released into the country, if you don't commit a specific aggravated felony, which by the way doesn't include a lot of assault and battery, doesn't include a lot of bad domestic violence, but if you're not one of the people who commit those crimes, you get to stay forever. Is that a fair characterization of your doctrine?
No, that is
Then
false.
tell me how many you're sending home.
No, that is false.
Okay, well, but you don't know the number of how many you've sent home. Here's another number. 1.2 million people today have been through your entire process.
Look at this guy.
Right? They've been through what you call a removal proceeding is just an amnesty dance. Because after the 1.2 million people get an order from the judge saying that they don't have a basis to be here, you still don't remove them. Like, what's your plan to remove those people?
So the thing is like this: when you receive a kind of notification, you have to be removed. You go back to wherever you came from. How do you know how many go back? How do you know? They might stay forever here, and you don't know about them until you catch them, and then you release them, because the police officer is not going to deport that person if it's called, let's say, in Montana, and he is from Honduras, let's say.
That is false.
Okay, how many of them then? Just give me the number.
Look at it.
Congressman, in this country, there are between 11 and 12 million.
Okay.
But I'm asking about a subset that you won't send home. And the reason you're smirking about it, and the reason you won't answer my question,
You
is
see?
because everybody
Look at him.
I'm asking about a subset that you won't send home. And the reason you're smirking about it,
This is a guy who's paid with our taxes. And this guy is an elected official who wants to know what have you done about the policies. And this guy is smirking in his face. And you can say, well, I don't like this guy. He's a Republican. He's an idiot, whatever. You might not. But this is where the my father's rule comes in. And I'm going to play it for you, the rest of this, and then I'm going to explain.
you won't answer my question, is because everybody gets the joke. And the sad thing is, it's not just us here, it's the cartels who get the joke too. And so now, what you've done to execute this Mayorkas doctrine, where so long as you don't commit a crime, you get to stay here and burden our hospitals, burden our schools, burden our social services, burden our jails. You've sent the message to the cartels, and then you've taken this app and you've digitized illegal immigration and you've scaled it to the moon.
He's going to ask another
this
question.
app that you've got everybody downloading is like the Disney Fast Pass into the country, never to be subject to actual removal, just removal proceedings, as you call them. That app doesn't do any search of their criminal history in their home country, does it?
No question.
Congressman,
So he wants to know if that app does criminal history search. And the guy can say yes or no. And look at his answer.
with everything you have said.
Well, I'm sure, but just answer the question in their home country, does it?
Congressman, I disagree with everything you have said.
Well, I'm sure, but just answer the question. Does the app that you are out there promoting do any search of people's criminal history in their
Yes,
home
no.
country?
Congressman, Customs and Border Protection screens and vets individuals whom they encounter.
Your app, it either has the functionality to test their criminal history in their home country or it doesn't. By the way, if it did, you'd have already told me. It doesn't. And then the other epic failure of this that's empowered the cartels is that in these processing centers you've set up in other countries to just wave them all in at a rapid pace, you've had to shut them down in Nuevo Laredo because the cartels were standing outside extorting people. Isn't that right?
Congressman, that is false.
Again, it's false.
Oh, really? So why did you shut down that facility in Nuevo Laredo?
Congressman, the point of
And why did you shut it down? Give me an answer. He's not going to give an answer.
safe, orderly, and lawful pathways is to reduce the number of encounters at our southwest border.
But wait a second. You've just shifted those encounters because right now, for the first time in modern history, more people are showing up at the ports of entry than running through some bush in Yuma, Arizona. And the reason they're showing up at the ports of entry is because you've got the turnstile open. Where so long as they've gone and downloaded this app You just let them in. I got one final question for you, and it's an important one. Is Mexico an ally in this fight against illegal immigration?
Yes, it is.
So
Finally, an answer.
It's hilarious and somewhat troubling that you say that, because like I'm looking at the El Chapo trial where President Nieto took $100 million bribe from the Sinaloa cartel. Do you think that the subsequent presidents following Nieto weren't offered a bribe by the cartel or didn't take the bribe?
Congressman, I disagree with everything you have said.
Right, but you can disagree all you want, but what you won't provide is any number. And when you sit there and just kind of ostensibly disagree without any facts, it shows people what the real gig is. The Mexican government is captive to the cartels. They are doing the bidding of the cartels, and based on your response today, so are you.
All right, well, this is it. Now, this is my little, the way I call it, my father's rule. And it's not the rule that my father made, is I made it because I do this in order to help me assess if I am so subjective. Maybe I am subjective because I like Gaetz and I don't like Mayorkas. And because you like a guy and you don't like the other one, everything what the guy that you don't like sounds stupid, and whatever the guy that you like sounds fantastic. So that's a bias that we all have, more or less. The same with other situations in life when you pick your mate and so on. So here you have this one, I'm trying to dissipate that bias. How do I do it? I imagine that the guy I don't like, or the guy that I think doesn't answer the questions, he's a weasel, like Mayorkas in this case, I say, okay, let's say this guy is my father. I admired my father the most. So he's the top of the top in my list. So it's someone, if you don't have that kind of experience with, let's say, your father, you have with someone else that you respect a lot or you love. And you put that person as the person that is the one that you don't like. I would put my dad and say, okay, Mayorkas is my father right here. And I look and say, do I like how my father answers these questions? And even if I put over there, I understand that even if I put my father that I love, this guy's a weasel. Even my father is a weasel. If my father would answer like Mayorkas and I would be Mayorkas' son, I would say, my father is a weasel. He's an asshole. Right here, look at that guy. So this is my father's rule that I implement. I look at the guy that I don't like and I put it in my father and say, maybe I have a bias. Let's say someone that I really love. And he would answer like Mayorkas answered. And I'm trying to look through it and say, no, you didn't answer the questions. All you said, you're wrong. I disagree with you. Refuse to answer. Don't know shit. You could be my father, but you are an asshole right here. So that's it. That's my rule, my friends. And here in this case, it's this is how our government works. You have a government employee. Mayorkas is an employee. He works for us. He was appointed, picked from here, put over there. Okay. Now, obviously, he went through a process that he was, how do you call it? Not vetted. I can't remember how it is. Goes through a commission, and if you have the majority, they would say yes, you are. The other ones, no, they would not support their nomination. They go in front of. So anyway, if you have your party appoints you and all that party votes for you, the other side doesn't really matter. So he was obviously voted. He was right there. He was the legitimate guy. But look at the way he treats an elected official. Take it Republican, take it Democrat. Doesn't really matter. The guy, Gaetz in this case, wants to find out some numbers. This guy should be able to produce them. He is refusing. And how he refusing it answers like a weasel. If Mayorkas would be my father, I would, you're a weasel, Dad. You're a weasel right there. That's it. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.